Hello everyone, and welcome to the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft Lottery. I'm your host, Jack Fanning, tonight, and this evening I am joined alongside my co-host, returning 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft Lottery star, Fac Janning. Tonight we will reveal the 14 slots in this year's upcoming 2022 draft. Before we get started and reveal the picks, let's throw it to Fac so he can tell us about the 2021 season. Thanks, Jack. The 2021 Mount Fantasy Football season was one for the record books, with many historical moments taking place throughout. Looking no further than our league commissioner Mike winning the first ever back-to-back title in the history of the Mount Fantasy Football League, while also winning his third title in the last 5 years. This was Mike's fourth title in the 12 seasons of the league, so congrats Mike on your repeat title. But the question remains, will he be able to make it a three-peat this season? In his quest for a title, Mike also faced another unprecedented event on the way to his fourth, facing his only son in the championship, giving us the first ever father-son matchup in the Mount Fantasy Football League. Jack F gave us all hope for those without a pulse to start off the year, pulling off an unprecedented run only to be buzzsawed down by his father in the final. Jack set a league record with 90 total transactions throughout the year, including 3 trades that we will touch on down the road in this draft lottery. Unfortunately, his Cinderella run ended, losing his third title in the 12 years of the Mount Fantasy Football League, and now still without that elusive title. Now, let's throw it back to Jack so he can tell us more about the lottery odds before we get to the lottery itself. Thanks, Fac. Before we reveal the order, let's take a look at this year's lottery odds from the 2021 season. Remember, due to the Uniball tournament, everyone is playing for something, hence why Pat has the best odds tonight for the number 1 pick, being that he missed the playoffs by 1 game but still powered through in the end. Fac, any insights on the projected lottery order this year? Yeah, Jack, one thing I'm curious to see tonight is where our league champ Mike gets slotted at. He's the only team without a first round pick in this year's draft, sending that pick among others in a deal in which he ended up getting players for his championship run to Jack M. He has the highest number of ping pong balls tonight at 14, but still a first rounder is a first rounder. So Jack M has 2 chances tonight at getting a very high lottery pick. Very excited to see what he can do with that in this upcoming draft. Good stuff right there, Fac. Speaking of trading picks, let's quickly take a look and see what picks were moved around last season for this year's draft. You heard us say earlier that Jack M has Mike's first round pick, alongside with his 4th this year. A few others of note, as you can see on screen right there. Mickey without a second round pick this year going to Dave, and Pat without a second, third, or 4th, all going to Jack F. Okay, and with that, let's get to the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft Lottery. Fac, take it away. With the 14th pick in the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft, Luke. Luke this year getting the 14th pick, coming in today with only 4 ping pong balls. Crazy start to the draft lottery already. With the 13th pick in the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft, John. Our last place finishing team finishing with 8 ping pong balls, getting the 13th pick. Don't sell the team, Johnny. With the 12th pick in the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft, Jack F. Our first somewhat shock pick of the night, Jack F getting pick number 12 this year when he originally was slotted for 13. One thing of note for right now at least, our league champ Mike had 14 ping pong balls coming into the night, yet still has not been selected. With the 11th pick in the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft, Jeff. Jeff had 7 ping pong balls this year in the pool, getting slotted in this year at number 11. With the 10th pick in the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft, Mickey. Mickey had 12 in play this year, coming in with a slot a little bit higher at number 10 overall this year in 2022. We still have 4 playoff teams in play for picks, being James D, Jack M, Mike, and Hugh. With the 9th pick in the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft, Dave. Whoa! Dave only had 2 ping pong balls this year, getting the 9th pick. Terrible luck. Sorry there, Dave. And what a crazy start to the draft lottery so far. With the 8th pick in the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft, Mike. The league champs fall is finally over. Someone say rigged, coming in tonight with 14 ping pong balls and lucking into the 8th slot. But remember, Jack M has his first round of Mikes. With the 7th pick in the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft, James D. James D also gets some great luck after a solid season last year, coming in 4th place in 2021, and with 11 ping pong balls, he gets the 7th pick tonight. With the 6th pick in the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft, Bob. Our first chalk of the night, Bob, coming in tonight with 6 ping pong balls and getting himself the number 6 overall pick in this year's draft. 5 more picks to go. Let's do this. With the 5th pick in the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft, Robbie. Chalk once again as Robbie comes into play, having 5 ping pong balls on the year and getting the 5th overall pick. Back-to-back father-son could be dangerous. With the 4th pick in the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft, Jack M. The second to last of playoff teams to fall in this year's draft lottery, Jack M now has the 4th and 8th pick in this year's draft. 3 picks to go. With the 3rd pick in the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft, Hugh. Our last playoff team in the draft lottery. Hugh gets the 3rd pick after coming in 5th place last year. What a lottery so far. This is pretty crazy. With the 2nd pick in the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft, James M. Okay, so James M had 3 ping pong balls this year, getting a bit of luck, you could say, getting the 2nd overall pick in this year's draft. Now, let's throw it over to Fax so he can tell us who has the number 1 overall pick. And with the 1st pick in the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft, Pat. So Pat and his Uniball get him the number 1 overall pick in this year's 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft. It's crazy to think about that even after all of this crazy lottery and some picks not going people's way that they might thought, Pat still gets the number 1 overall pick after having the Uniball. Another thing of note regarding Pat's first overall pick, he will not be picking after this first overall pick until the 5th round at pick number 57, if my calculations are correct. Very crazy to think about. Should be an exciting one. We are just a few months away from the 2022 Mount Fantasy Football Draft, which is set for August 20th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you all there, and we are very excited to see you all.